Only 30 days left, folks. So I had a friend go into a shop, spent like $30 and gave her cash, and the cashier asked for her name and her phone number. She, of course, asked why, and she said because you're using cash. But the friend said no worries because now I'm not buying the products, and she pretty much just walked away, with the girl in the background pretty much yelling, "You better get used to it because we're going cashless." I mean, yeah, they talk about digital dollars and CBDCs like they're the most convenient thing in the world, but what mainstream media doesn't really cover is how CBDCs could also mean more government control and quite possibly less financial freedom. Here, check this out, guys.
If the government were ever to digitize currency, your freedoms would evaporate. They could zero out your bank account and make you impoverished for being disobedient. You would be a serf at best. And with that in mind, you should know that central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, are about to become the norm in Europe. The president of the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, has just said that Europeans will not be able to use more than $1,000 in cash anymore.
Now we have in Europe this threshold. Above 1,000 euros, you cannot pay cash. If you do, you are on the gray market. So you take your risk. You get caught, you are fined, or you go in jail.
So you go to jail for spending your own money if they don't control it.
I mean, seriously, guys, I miss the days when 1984 was only a sci-fi book and not something that our government seems to be transforming into. You know what I mean? And so this is why I thought that it would be important today to actually talk about this. We refuse this kind of control. Some say tyranny by any means necessary. We have to stay free, right? We just got to watch out for those folks over at the WEF, the World Economic Forum, the Federal Reserve, the UN, or even our own government officials. We're talking about our basic rights and our freedoms here that existed before the government. And now the Fed just launched the FedNow. So they're calling it a payment system, but a lot of people are saying that this could very well be the starting infrastructure for a digital dollar or a CBDC. Yep, it's true, folks. So let's talk about the central bank digital currency, also known as the CBDC, shall we? So basically a CBDC is like a digital version of a country's central bank currency that regular people like me and you can use. It's not the same as the digital money that we have in our bank accounts or our digital wallets, which is under the control of commercial banks. And so instead, a CBDC is a liability for the central bank itself. Hence the important part there, centralization. Pay attention, folks. And so the idea behind the CBDC is to give us like another option to make payments, one that's secure and efficient. You know how we have physical cash and digital balances that commercial banks hold at the central bank? Well, a CBDC is meant to be an extra way for us to handle our money. And so the folks over at the Federal Reserve, they're thinking about introducing a CBDC to improve the safety and efficiency of domestic payments in the United States. They're seeing all these new private sector financial products and services popping up, kind of like digital wallets, mobile payment apps, cryptocurrencies, and stable coins. And, well, they want to keep up with the times. So the question is, what could a CBDC do for us? Well, it could offer us some benefits, convenience above all else. But it may also open the door to new and innovative financial products and services. It might speed up payments and bring more people into the financial fold. Now, there are some risks and policy concerns to consider. So we got to look at the impact on the financial sector's market structure and credit availability, the safety and stability of the financial system, and of course, how effective monetary policy would be with a CBDC in the mix. These are all just some of the things that we all need to think about. Now, the major concern is the potential loss of privacy for users. Now, unlike physical cash transactions, which can be anonymous, digital transactions, they're easily traceable and can be monitored. So with a digital dollar, the government could have access to a lot of our financial data. And naturally, this raises worries about surveillance and the erosion of our own financial privacy. Having the ability to track all these digital transactions could tempt the government to use information to keep an eye on our citizens. And this is where the real danger lies. Pretty much opens up the possibility of abuses of power, like tracking political dissidents or whistleblowers, or even just monitoring the spending habits of regular people. A CBDC could also allow government agencies and private sector players to program targeted policy functions. Basically, they could control how and where people use the CBDC, which sounds like a lot of power in government and corporate hands. Let me know if that just sounds a little bit unsettling to you. Now, just to give you guys an example here, right? In China, their CBDC, their central bank digital currency, it's linked to your digital ID. Now, if, for example, you're caught jaywalking, The facial recognition system will immediately display your face on a public board of shame before automatically deducting your fine from your digital wallet. Now, just imagine this happening right here in the good old US of A. Now, of course, the possibility of abuse is a big worry when it comes to digital currencies and its impact on our privacy rights. Now, apart from the government surveillance, the digital dollar could also put our financial data at risk of being accessed by third parties like corporations or even advertisers. And that opens up the door to some pretty serious possibilities, like our personal financial information being commodified, meaning companies could use our data for targeting, marketing, or other purposes, basically whatever they want. Another example, in South America, everyone seems to be turning to digital currency without giving it a second thought. They say it's because of the high levels of assaults and robberies, or the fear thereof. Merchants carry such little cash that it's hard for them to make change, even small bills. Even street vendors, peddlers with mobile devices for processing card payments. More and more people use the Pix payment app, more pay their bills online, etc. Even when explaining how Canada froze bank accounts, people aren't even fazed because they think it's never going to happen to them. There's even a tax refund scheme where you provide your tax ID number for purchases and can get a small percentage back at the end of the year. But why? So the government can know what you're spending on, what you're buying, where you're buying it, and how that squares up with your income tax declarations. So yeah, sounds like a very slippery slope that could be very dangerous down the line. Besides privacy concerns, the digital dollar could also have a very significant impact on our financial freedom. You see, guys, with the potential of increased government control over financial transactions, we may very well find ourselves limited in our ability to spend freely or not to spend when we choose to. I mean, I mentioned how Canada's been freezing accounts, right? That would be way more possible and even easier with the help of a digital dollar. When it comes to physical cash, freezing assets typically requires a court order. But with a digital dollar, that process could easily be streamlined, raising concerns about due process and individual property rights. Some experts mention how this kind of control could lead to the politicization of how money is used. And it doesn't even end there. Negative interest rates could be more easily implemented with a digital dollar. Now, this might sound technical, but all it is it effectively punishes people who are saving their money and instead pushes them to spend or invest their money, kind of like a use it or lose it kind of ultimatum on your own money. Some people call it government controlled programmable money that can easily be weaponized into a surveillance tool. And there's also this huge cybersecurity risk to talk about. You see, guys, hackers could set their sights on the central bank itself or even target individual user accounts, which could cause a whole lot of chaos and disruption in the financial system. The scariest part of it is that if a cyber attack is successful and the digital dollar's infrastructure gets compromised, it could lead to a systemic risk. In simpler terms, it could shatter people's confidence in the currency and the entire financial system as a whole. And as we all know, trust is the foundation of any well-functioning financial system and, of course, its currency. So this could have some very serious economic consequences. Honestly, how much do you guys trust our government and the Fed to not fudge this up? You know what I mean? By the way, if you guys are new to the channel, please consider subscribing to the channel and also drop a quick like for the video. I would totally appreciate that. And if you own a home, make sure your home is protected. Get your free home warranty quote. There's a link in the description down below this video. Cyber criminals could also target individual users of the digital dollar. And it's easy enough for them to access accounts now with security weaknesses or phishing scams. A digital dollar could probably just make things that much easier for them. Then we'd have severe financial losses for victims, and that could further undermine the trust in the digital currency. And if there are technical glitches, natural disasters, or other disruptions, power grid outages, I don't even know what would actually happen with people's digital dollars. Implementing a digital dollar might end up making financial inequality even worse, mainly by widening the digital divide. You see, not everybody has easy access to technology that's needed for digital currencies, like smartphones or reliable internet connections. And this could very well hit low-income and rural communities especially hard, and that would actually push them even further away from the financial system. So Americans without access to digital currencies or digital devices or the internet might find themselves in a significant disadvantage, and they could be left out of the digital financial ecosystem altogether. Not to mention the shift to a digital dollar could be very tough on small businesses and cash-based economies. Businesses that rely on cash could face some serious challenges. Small businesses could end up with higher costs as they try to transition to digital payment systems, dealing with expenses like hardware, software, and transaction fees. meaning more financial strain on these businesses. So it'd be that much harder for them to compete with large companies that have whole cybersecurity and tech departments dedicated to this type of thing. I mean, heck, just recently, the Fed officially launched FedNow, which is a service that's supposed to be revolutionizing the process of sending payments within the United States. Now, apparently, it makes transactions nearly instant as opposed to the hours or even days that it currently takes when transferring money between accounts. Now, sure, the Fed's saying that their new instant payment service FedNow has no connection to the digital asset space, but this new system could easily set the stage for a potential CBDC in the United States. So, yeah. Lots of concerns about the possible privacy and control risks associated with a digital dollar. Now, let's be clear that the experts confirm this is a payment system, not a digital token, not a CBDC, but they also recognize that it could pave the way for a future CBDC. If FedNow evolves into a programmable CBDC, it could, in theory, be used to block payments for items or activities that the government disapproves of, or even exclude individuals from the financial system if they're considered threatening to government authorities, like political opponents. Can you imagine if Trump was barred from his own money because they felt that he was a threat? Oh man, that'd be a mess. And this is where things start to get a bit worrisome, as it could potentially lead to a dystopian scenario real quick.